let's get our fingers moving. So a couple of things that are going to be going on in the purpose of this one is, one, we're trying to get some movement happening through the fingers, or I should say get some nutrients and blood flow and whatnot through the fingers. So to do this, we need the fingers themselves and the finger joints to be generating some force, because tissue generating force is what sucks the nutrients in. So we want to do that, but obviously we want to do it in a way that's not going to exacerbate any issues. So the simplest way to do that is to do it isometrically. So as an example, let's just say I'm going to use this first knuckle on my pointer finger. All I'm going to do to start with is I'm just going to start at this angle, at straight, and I'm literally just going to hold it still. I'm going to come closer so you can see. This is how I hold it. I'm going to put one finger here, two fingers underneath, and now I'm done. Now I can try to lift it back that way, and I can try to bend this way, but I can't. I'm just going to literally do this at about 30%, not a lot, just enough force to use the tissue, and I'm going to try and bend it back. It's not going to go because I'm at the end range. The next thing I'm going to do is I want to get a little bit of a bend in it, and I want to hit it at a few different angles, so I can get to about 90 degrees here. I don't need to do it at 10 or 15 degrees the whole time, but just bend it a little bit. I would go as far as you can, bend it as far as you can before sort of pain kicks in, like just before, and hold it there, and then just hold it still, like literally hold it still. This is simple, and then do a pals and rails contraction. So the pals contraction will be trying to pull back, rails will be trying to bend more, but we're just gonna hold it still. I'm literally holding it like this. There's no movement, it's really simple. And now I'm doing a pals contraction, so I'm trying to straighten my knuckle, and then a rails contraction, I'm trying to bend more, but I'm holding it still. So hopefully this doesn't hurt. I've got a tennis ball here, so you could use that. So, how the hell do I show that? Here. So same thing, I'll just kind of get to that point, get that angle, there we go. So now I'm holding that still. So I've got this finger over the top. So for my pals contraction, I'm trying to bend back up that way using this knuckle. I can't. Rails contraction is pulling back into the tennis ball. So it's just finding a way that you can get that isometric hold, and then getting some movement through there, because obviously it sucks having these joints that don't feel good. They're growing, they're getting bigger, all these things. We just want to get some nutrients in there as best that we can. So we want to find just that way. If you can get that actively, great, but if not, just bend it, hold it, pals contraction, and just like 20-30 seconds at like 20-30%. This isn't a strengthening exercise. We're literally doing it just to get that nutrients, get some flow in there, so the tissue can actually heal. So that's one thing that I want you to do. Do that with all of the joints that you're actually having issues with. But then there's another thing I want you to look at, and it's this. Do you have the ability to just bend one, so I'm just using my middle finger here, that joint, or bend, say, that top joint without that move? It's actually really, really hard. So what I would recommend is actually holding, if you've got joints that you're having problems with, see if you can actually just control and bend that joint. If you can't, what I want you to do is think about like a hinge point training, where your goal is just to sort of hold everything else still while you move one thing. So literally hold this here. So you'll be doing that sort of pals and rails that you're doing before anyway, but now you're doing it on all the joints that you can't move. So here, I kind of can't move that joint without that one, which is a bit weird. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna hold that, and I'm just gonna bend this down as much as I can. So I just actually wanna start teaching my fingers to be able to move one joint at a time. It may seem like a silly thing to do, but over time, if we let our bodies, our fingers sort of just work as one piece, it will mean that we will sometimes start losing the ability to move and use those joints. And over time, it's going to cause a big problem, because it means we can't use that tissue there. So just kind of have a look. This is the first time I've really tried doing this on the weekend. So I can hold that and do that. I'm actually probably going to do this because it's going to help me with my jiu-jitsu. And then I can hold that still and then bend that way. So I'm actually not using my hand to move. I'm just holding this one still and I can do that. Same as hinge point training, just sort of sit there for like 20, 30 seconds per joint. So I'm gonna hold that still and do this. The other one, I'm gonna hold that still and do that. I'm just gonna do that for sort of 20 or 30 seconds on each of the joints that I find that I need some help getting some movement through. And there you go. So have some fun with this. I know it may seem kind of, I don't know, it seems to me like it's going to be a fair bit of time on these little things, and you're like, oh, they're only little joints, but because they're little, it seems like it's not that big a deal. But if you've got sore hands and sore fingers, you appreciate how important those fingers and hands are. So this may actually be one of the most important things to actually spend time on. So one, we want to get those little positional isometrics or iso ramping, depending on which term I decide to use on the day, just to get some blood flow and some nutrients going in there, but then also just doing these almost like, well, hinge point training just for your fingers. If you've got any questions about that, let me know.